Hello everyone, we are back again and my name is Priya Patra and I am the Vice President Outreach of Pmi Mumbai Chapter. And today we are going to talk about design thinking in project management. Our spotlight chapter is Pmi Puget Sound chapter, and we also do have lot other 19 more chapters joining us today. And before we get started, let me introduce my co-host of the day. And I have Prashant from PMI Gujarat chapter. Prashant. So you'll be have to be on mute, please. Yes, Prashant.
Hello everyone, I am Prashant and I volunteer for the PMI Gujarat India chapter.
Yes, and we have Damike, our chapter leader from Sri Lanka.
Hi, this is Damika from Sri Lanka.
Hello, Damike. And of course, we do have Madeline from our Netherlands chapter as my co-host. Madeline, are you there?
Yes, hello everyone. I am Madeline from the Netherlands chapter. And
Go ahead.
Shall I continue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Priya. Welcome everyone to the PMI Chapter Exchange Season 2. We are at the event 6 of the season, and today the theme is Design Thinking in Project Management. And today we have our PMI friends joining from different PMI chapters, 20 chapters. I would like to ask everyone to put on mute their mic if it's possible. Thank you. So our chapters that are participating today with us in this collaboration are Indonesia, PMI Indonesia, PMI Gujarat, PMI Zimbabwe, PMI New Zealand, PMI Phoenix, PMI Czech Republic, PMI Netherlands, PMI Sri Lanka, PMI South Florida, PMI United Kingdom, Lima, Peru, PMI Sao Paulo, PMI Southern Alberta, Kenya, Ghana, PMI Poland, and our supporting chapters PMI Greece and PMI Puget Sound.
Yes, sir.
Thank you for joining tonight, this afternoon. Please say hello in the chat to each other and continue networking while we get started. We are excited to announce today that we have 1526 registrations across the globe from 72 countries. Thank you everyone for this warm response to our initiative, and let us know from where you are joining. You can go to the Menti website that Vrushan posted in the chat as well, and use the code to tell us where you are joining from. And also give us your feedback about the event at the link you see here, and it will be posted also in the chat. We want to let you know that this meeting is being recorded, and if you feel uncomfortable in any ways, you may choose not to attend. Otherwise, you are welcome to continue. On top of this, please make sure that your mic is on mute for the entire session, and your noise-making devices are put on silent. And be mindful that everyone here in this event are speaking on their own individual capacity, and their views are not represent any organizational views. Priya, I give the floor back to you.
So, yeah, thank you, Madeline, and everyone, welcome from all across the globe. Before we get started, we have a very special guest today on this event, and you can see her picture on the screen as well. And I'm sure that I don't need to kind of introduce her, but still I will do a little. She is Otema, and she's Vice President of Global Engagement in PMI. Otema drives PMI's customer-centric sales, marketing channels, and she focuses on stakeholder growth, customer delight, to solidify PMI's global impact through regionalization. And that is very exciting. And she is also the founder and the of Nexinova, leading acceleration of scale-ups for techs and technology-enabled companies and ecosystem-based companies in Africa. She is a lifelong learner and she has a wonderful podcast as well. Otema, would I call that a podcast uh, how do you name it? It's like beautiful poetries, and with her beautiful voice, she enthralls us every month. And I really like that podcast that she shares with us every month. And she's also has multiple. She's very highly educated. She has arts masters of arts degree in development from School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London, UK, a postgraduate certificate in international banking finance from New York University in the United States as well. And with this, I hand over the virtual floor to you, Otema, to kickstart this event 7 of PMI Chapter Exchange.
Thank you so much, Priya. Humbled by your introduction, excited to be here and excited about this program that so many people are joining around the world to learn around design thinking. And I just wanted to share a few remarks before you get into the questions with the panelists. And what's so fascinating about design thinking and PMI's thinking around it is design thinking is human-centered design. And that's really important. And if you think about our talent triangle, you think about the fact that it's about the power skills, it's about the ways of work, it's about our business acumen. Well, one of the key power skills is empathy. And one of the key steps within design thinking is, how do I empathize, right? How do I then define and ideate and prototype, test, and do it again? And projects where you're doing that, you have that skill, that in that toolkit of yours, what happens? You get to turn that idea into reality. So I think today you're going to learn more about design thinking within project management. And I think about it as, it's the way you need to look at a problem and have empathy, define it, ideate, prototype, test, and iterate. It's not sequential, it's iterative, and it really gives a way to sort of amplify your projects and get things done. And so I've been going around the world talking about the power skills. That's one of my favorite new things. And I think why it's so important is that it's a differentiator for you as an individual, but also if you're leveraging on the power skills of your team, you're successful. And so to get your projects on time, on budget, in scope, I encourage you to build up your power skills and think about new ways of work. And I think design thinking is one of those ways. So back to you, Priya. I'm really excited for today's discussion. And as I said, build those power skills.
Thank you, Otema. Definitely, we are going to build those power skills. And we are going to get some tips from our panelists today on how to build those power skills, right? And but before that, I'm going to talk a little about PMI Chapter Exchange. What is PMI Chapter Exchange? PMI Chapter Exchange is nothing but it's a collaboration. It is a community of chapter leaders. And our vision is to evangelize cross-chapter collaboration. And of course, when we do that, we encourage cultural diversities. And you've seen this, as I say, there are 20 chapters on this platform today, but we have registrations from 72 countries. So how can this happen? This can happen only when our chapter leaders are evangelizing this across the globe. So it's all about teamwork. And we've moved beyond these events now. We have been collaborating and building something what we call as Inside Exchange Nuggets. And we've already launched 6 of them. And these are nothing but takeaways from these events. So whatever we discuss, we try to get diverse thoughts from the panelists, and we publish them as a document, a 2-pager document, and we call them as Insight Exchange Nuggets. So if you wish to participate in these nuggets, or if you want to participate in the program to write a note to us or send us a request on the chapter collaboration platform, that is a CCP. And when we are doing this, we are actually building a community and where we share good practices. So if some chapter has a good practice, this automatically comes into the program because he or she brings in that experience. And we build on each other's strengths. And of course, we grew, as we said, in not only in terms of numbers, but also in a sphere of influence through diversity, inclusion, and equity of thoughts. And that is why you will notice there are chapters from diverse backgrounds participating in this program. Our panelists are also representing the 4 continents that we have today. It's from different continents so that we can get different diverse view on a single topic, because we truly believe diverse connections lead to innovative solutions. And with this, I will introduce our spotlight chapter of the month, and which is PMI Puget Sound chapter. And Yuda Pratama is the president of this chapter. And he did send me a beautiful, fun introduction, but I tried to keep it a little more serious. Yuda is a senior program manager. It's product launch. Yuda is one of our most talented team member as well. These beautiful flyers that you see is all made by Yuda. He is also the editor of our Insight Exchange nugget that I talked about. He is responsible for program management, tracking, maintaining all fields, all dimensions of project management. He is also a lecturer in portfolio program and project management in the Northeastern University, Seattle. He has authored one book, Building Agile Team, One Parable at a Time. And his second book is in progress. And I wish one day I can get a signed copy of these 2 books from Yuda. So with this, Yuda, I hand over the virtual stage to you to introduce yourself and your chapter and why you wish to join this program.
Thank you, Priya. Wow, thank you for the kind introduction. I don't know what to say. Hi, everyone. My name is Yuda Pratama. I am honored to be here speaking to all of you today, introducing the Puget Sound chapter. And I guess I should say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all of you out there. I think this is the first time in my life that I get to say that. So today marked a lot of firsts for me. I am the current president of the Puget Sound PMI chapter, and I will be serving the chapter from July 2021 to July 2023. So this is also the first time I'm called the president. So I'm very new at this. I have been volunteering at the chapter since, I believe, 2015, serving many roles from the director of photography and digital media to the VP of technology. As Priya mentioned, I work as a senior program manager, managing product launches and agile coaching for a broadcasting company called Sinclair Broadcast Group. Our company owns hundreds of TV stations throughout the United States, and I work for the digital portion of the organization. So that means website, apps, CRM, data analytics, etc. Now, I don't do all of them, I'm just like, I'm part of it. I am also a part-time lecturer at the Northeastern University Project and Program Management for the last few years. Now, the Puget Sound PMI is one of the largest PMI chapters in the US, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that we are in the top 10 largest PMI chapters in the world. We have around 2,400 members, and once upon a time, we had more than 3,000 members. So my goal as the chapter president is to bring the chapter membership back to 3,000 by finding ways to increase members' engagement and to bring in more members, to find ways to provide values to the project manager in the Puget Sound area, so that they would want to become members to become part of the chapter. Now, where is Puget Sound? Puget Sound is kind of another name for Seattle. Seattle is located in the state of Washington at the west coast of the United States. Living in Seattle is really, really nice. I love it here. We are, 2 hours away from the Pacific Ocean, maybe an hour away from the Cascade Range, and Cascade Range is the American Ring of Fire. So one day it may go boom. So Puget Sound PMI is primarily serving project manager in Seattle, Bellevue, Tacoma, Renton, and the surrounding. We are right in the middle of some of the biggest companies in the world, such as Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, T-Mobile, Expedia, Starbucks, Costco, to name just a few. Now, we have a lot of need for project managers, and we have a lot of project managers. So I set out to learn from different chapters, from all of you, to learn your strategies, your program, your execution, etc. On a personal basis, I also hope to be able to start networking with all of you who are here today. So please connect with me in LinkedIn if you would like to. I am extremely grateful for the opportunity to be here today. The Puget Sound PMI chapter owes a great deal of gratitude to Priya for allowing our chapter to be part of the PMI Exchange program. Within the last month or so, I have learned so much by watching how PMI Exchange put together worldwide event with thousands of registered. Today is the record-breaking event with the numbers of sign up and the number of countries. And this is the only time, as I mentioned earlier, that I get to say good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, right? This is truly an eye-opening experience for me. The planning, the coordination, the execution is truly inspirational, and I hope to continue to be able to continue to contribute and learn more. So thank you. Back to you, Priya.
Thank you, Yuda, so for saying those wonderful words. And we do, want to inspect, adapt, and improve one event at a time. And we are doing that. Thank you very much. And with this, I will introduce the session moderator of the day, Dr. Weiselin. And Dr. Weiselin is a merger and an acquisition expert. He is an SPCT, that is Safe Program Consultant Trainer, and he is leading value-driven enterprise and agile DevSecOps transformation across corporates. He is an enterprise agile transformation and DevSecOps expert. And with this, Dr. Weiselin, I hand over the virtual stage back to you to, kickstart the session and the panel discussion on design thinking and project management.
Thank you so much, Priya. And, first of all, would like to thank Otima for the kind words and the words of wisdom, and would like to congratulate both, Yuda and Priya for running this great show and bringing all of us together from various continents. So great job doing that. Appreciate it. So I have the privilege today of introducing a very star-studded panel for you guys. So let me do that first. First, we have Nivarti Jairam. Nivarti is the author of Unlearning, and he's an enterprise transformation leader with more than 15 years of experience in transforming organizations across diverse industry domains. So I'm glad to have you, Nivarti. Next, we have Nina. Nina has 10 years of experience in leading transformations and change management in complex environments. She considers herself a design thinking activist, bringing the attention to the change in mindset. It's all about empathy. Welcome, Nina. Next, would like to introduce you guys to Christian. Christian Otis is a psychologist and a social entrepreneur. Christian is a senior consultant at Deloitte. He has wide experience in human capital and innovation initiatives. Besides, he's the CEO and founder at LACE, which is an educational enterprise using design thinking that provides English classes and environmental education to children from 16 countries in Latin. Latin America, which is pretty cool. That's a very noble thing. Then the project has impacted more than 3,000 children in Latin America. It's very nice to have you, Christian, with us. And then we'd like to introduce you to Cyril. Cyril is an agile activist and a strategist with over 25 years of agile delivery and training experience in information technology, spanning retail, management, consulting, finance, and telecommunication industries across, EMEA. Cyril finds fulfillment in helping delivery teams and senior managers bring their best self to work using business agility concepts through business transformation. So it's pretty cool to have you all here, and excited about the conversations that we're going to have in the space of design thinking. Now, maybe I'll just start with one small quote, and then I would like to, take a few questions to our panelists here. Now, this quote, what I want to start with is from Don Norman, from a book called The Design of Everyday Things. So what he says is, good design is actually a lot harder to notice than poor design, in part because good designs fit our needs so well that the design is invisible, serving us without drawing any attention to itself. Bad designs, on the other hand, screams out its inadequacies, making itself very noticeable. Just pretty cool quote. It's a very beautiful quote. And just to repeat what Fatima said, right? This is a human-centered design approach. So we'll talk more about this in the panel, but I would like to start maybe with, let me start with Nivarti. Nivarti, how do you integrate design thinking into the enterprise? I'll let you go first.
I think it start with, it could be a cultural thing in the organizations, right? So if you are starting off with projects and you're talking about project management, and with most organizations going agile in today's world, a lot of people have apprehension on the project management as a capability in organization itself, right? That's a question mark we all look at. But when you see and integrate the design thinking aspects into project management, what it brings through is, one, the ability to iteratively deliver value faster. And you highlighted a great quote, right? Most times we see that as project management community, we look at delivering outcomes which are fit for use. Design thinking moves us from fit for use to fit for purpose. So by being people centered, what it actually means is, are you delivering what the customer wants, and does it fulfill the purpose that they are looking for? Many times you may have all the products that you are delivering, it is fit for use, but it doesn't solve the very purpose that they are looking at. And we can quote many examples for that as well. If you take a simple example that I can talk about, we were setting up an entirely new business process management platform, and the purpose we were looking at from that platform was to reduce the pressure on contact center. Now, if you are delivering outcomes which are good to use, but if they are not compelling the customers to move to digital platforms, then depending on, going to customer care center, it does not solve the purpose we are looking at, right? And how you accomplish that is what design thinking helped us do. So I think we can discuss more on that, but that's how I look at it for a start.
Absolutely, makes perfect sense. Thank you for that insight. Right now, I would like to, have one more question for you. I was fascinated by our conversation with, about unlearning, the book that you wrote. Right. So how does that, this is a big mind shift change. So how do you bring about in an organization with that? How do you do that? How do you influence as a leader?
Yeah, again, thanks for bringing the topic. It's a topic I'm very passionate about, right? So whether it's organization or individuals, we all develop a lot of habits which are kind of sometimes or conscious, sometimes subconscious, and sometimes unconscious. Now, how we can visualize the unconscious and subconscious habits and behaviors as an organization, as individuals that we have developed over the years, which does not solve or serve what we are looking to accomplish in the new world. You talk about Agile today, right? Or you talk about DevOps as an entity. So from that, when you look at cultural aspect, it's more about unlearning than learning. It's about doing away with what behaviors and habits or culture you as an organization have built. So unlearning plays a big part in us being able to transform faster.
Very nice. Very nice. Thank you for saying that. Absolutely. Now, this is pretty cool, right? Now, before we go next, right? What is this? Let me a little bit reset a little bit to see what is design thinking actually. And let's double click a little bit, right? So the design thinking is all about customer centricity, right? So there are, I would say there is three things I would say from my side, that it is a mindset, there is a set of tools to solve problems creatively with a human centric design approach, right? So that's a very important thing. If I were to simplify it further, I would say 5 steps, right? It is about empathizing with the customer himself, doing empathy maps or any other tools like personas. There are so many tools like that, right? Then we define the problem. So first we diverge. We don't restrict ourselves. We talk to all the customers, listen to everything that they have to say. Then we converge again to say, okay, fine, I heard you. These are the top X things, and we define the problem. Then we ideate on the solution. We keep our options open. We don't go with one set of a solution. We do a bunch of options. We do A/B testings and other tools, run it back to the customer by building prototypes and say, hey, I know you wanted this. What do you like, A or B? And we test it. And then we go back to the drawing board. And it's all about hyper customer centricity, which is pretty cool. Now, I would next like to go in this aspect, right? I would next like to go to Christian, right? Christian, what are some of these, some strategies to get employees get buy-in to this design thinking process? How do you left shift? In many cases, people are just given a scope and then they just go and execute it. How do you strategize to get employees to buy in into this design thinking? Please go for it, Christian.
Thank you very much for your question. I'm very happy to be here. And that's an excellent question because it gives us the opportunity to talk about empathy. Because in order to get the buy-in for employees, we need to develop empathy and resilience through the process. It's important to focus on collaboration and commitment in our team is one another topic. Besides, we should start developing a mixed mindset between analytical and intuitive thinking to pass over parameters and structures to embrace uncertain situation. This is what really interesting about design thinking is to reshift and go to in another mindset, especially when we are open our door for innovation. I think other important thing in order to get the buy-in for the teams is to promote the observing process. The observing is one of the key aspects in order to promote and to put design thinking in action. So the observe process is, for instance, is like an art. We can listen and get inspired with our eyes. is what I really like it about this process. And finally, to be open and to everyone could be curious instead of judging. Because as Nivarti said, it's very important when we apply design thinking is to stop our bias in order to see the work through the lens from the others. So in order to let your team unleash the whole potential and to openness to embrace a new way of thinking, it's where the buy-in begins.
Thank you, Christian. Appreciate it. Now, next I would like to go to Cyril, right? So here's the thing that we talk a lot about culture and mindset. Personally, what I've seen in life is, right, many people hide under the curtain culture or culture, company culture. I don't believe in that. I believe to change the culture, the way to change a culture is to introduce an act, one act. That act, when repeated many times, becomes a habit. And when the habit gets repeated many times, become a culture. And that's pretty cool, and that's something which I do it even in my personal life. So I want to take Cyril's advice on what is the connection between organizational culture and design thinking, and how do you evolve it? Cyril, please take it away. Cyril, I think you may be on mute.
I was on mute. Yeah, famous statement, right? You're on mute. Yeah, it's a great pleasure to be here. Firstly, thank you, Wiselin, and an honor to be speaking with this awesome panel of speakers here, having this really great conversation around design thinking. Yeah, I think Nivarti and Christian have spoke about the relevance of organizational culture as part of design thinking, and we see this right in industry. Organizations that invest heavily are very conscious about design thinking. They make sure that they have the right culture within the organization, so that everyone is thinking in the right way. So let's take a good example like innovation as one example, right? So innovation should really come from anywhere within an organization. It can come from the guys cleaning the floors all the way to the senior executives, right? And it's important for leadership to encourage everyone to think in this way, and to be thinking about how can we improve our customers' experience? How can we develop great products? We see this, organizations that take innovation seriously, they have what we call hackathons, right? Periodical events that encourage teams to come together and come up with some some ideas, some prototypes or whatever, to try and explore new ways of developing products and customer service. And when we have these kind of initiatives as part of our regime in an organization, it becomes habitual. To your point, Wiselin, how can we make these behaviors habitual? The best way is to make it part of how we work as an organization, right? So, in agile organizations, every quarter or so, or every month, there's this kind of event that is taking place, and everyone is participating, and so there's all this, this conscious, mindset around how can we make our products better. And the second point as well is that we really want to instill passion into our employees in terms of what we do as a business, right? So, if we're in the media sector and we kind of our focus is on getting content out into our customers, we have to be very, very passionate about this content. All employees want to be in that place. To be honest, if an employee does not have passion for what we do as a business, then they probably don't belong there, right? So organizations that are mindful about that, they make sure that as part of their recruitment process, they are making sure that there's that kind of cultural fit there as well. So yeah, there are all these kind of different initiatives that can be implemented to help employees to consistently think in a particular way. Yeah.
Cool. I appreciate that thoughts. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Next to like to go to our panelist Nina before I take a few questions from the audience additionally as well. So Nina, can you elaborate on? Can you tell us some tools and techniques what we can use to engage our users and customers in the space of design thinking? Would you like to help us there?
Absolutely. So I truly believe that design thinking, as you clearly mentioned this, Elaine, I really like the way how you put it, is more than a set of tools, right? I personally call it an art in which you have an approach, we have methods and you have tools, and they all have one purpose and one aim, which is help you to put your users, your customers at the center of all what you do. So some of the things to really, really get it started is extremely important that you go out and you talk to your customers. So this is one of the very basic fundamental elements that you have in design thinking, which is you're not going to learn from them by sitting behind a screen and just guessing what they need, right? You just need to really get out. And by going out, I mean also having virtual contact if you cannot physically go out and talk to them, but try to really get to know them and understand them, really understand what drives them, what are the pain points, what really matters to them, what are their wishes, what are they looking forward. And once you have that, you will be able to start empathizing. So there are some tools we call, for example, personas. Once you have talked to a set of your customers, potential customers, you can already start drafting and setting up together a profile of what are some of the key elements that bring people together, so that you could say, this can be the profile of one segment of my customers, this can be another one. So that's the persona. But through the empathy map, which is also heavily used in design thinking, you actually start putting yourself in the shoes of your customers, right? You start not only observing, but you start actually engaging and you start understanding. So it's all about changing that perspective from what you think it's important for your customers, actually from experiencing from their point of view and understanding what is really important to them. So I would say if you really want to get to know and understand better your customers, that's always a good way to start. And then understanding their journey whenever they are trying to achieve something. Okay, how smooth that journey goes, right? Is it an easy journey? Is it a complex journey? Is it a hard journey? Are they, like in any journey, some, it's in a straight path, or there is a path with a lot of bumps and obstacles that they need to overcome? So that will help you to really understand where are the biggest pain points that eventually with your team, with your company, you want to help solve, right? So there are some of those instruments, and if I would like to name, I would say those are the three most important ones to get started, to really get that human-centered approach with your customers.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much. You touched on a very important point, considering we are all in a pandemic mode. And, I think this just reminded me of the Japanese term, right? Genchi Genbutsu. Go see for yourself, right? Now, we are all in our, we are all now in a pandemic mode. And if anything at all, 2 years has just accelerated digital transformation. And, and my question to you is, how there are process interviews, there are many things that we do to talk to the customer. So what do you think is anything has changed in that since last 2 years in terms of talking to the customer or understanding their needs from a remote world perspective?
That's a very good point. I would say that it is the way how you reach out to your customers, probably what has changed fundamentally, because from one day to another, we all got in lockdown. We didn't go out. We couldn't really go and actually visit or talk to our customers. So you had to make that shift into a digital means. But personally, in my company, we have managed to actually easily convert and say, well, hey, what is stopping us from reaching out to someone and having, a conversation through a video? Of course, it's not always the same dynamic, but we have been using the same tools. We have been really engaging with virtual collaboration tools so that you can actually extract as much of the information that you can get it from your customers. So that, I would say, is what has fundamentally changed, but it has not stopped companies from continuing working and reaching out and involving and empathizing with your customers. Now, if you really look at the market nowadays, there are so many tools. I mean, Mural, Miro, you name it. There are so many that actually help you to collaborate together digitally. And that's actually fantastic, because you still can get and you still can have that dialogue and that collaboration together with the customers that probably in the past it will take a little bit more effort to get out of the room, to really go visit, see them whenever it's possible. And I still think that's very valuable. But the fact that the pandemic has put on a lot of limitations, it doesn't mean that you cannot do it anymore.
Awesome. Very well stated. Thank you, Nina. I appreciate it. So I have the next question from one of our participants for our Nivarthi. So the question is, yes, is design thinking integrated into organizational change management, or it should be treated separately? How about change management and design thinking? Go for it.
Yeah, I think it has to be integrated. You can't do design thinking separately and run change separately, right? So it's part of your change. It's more about how you execute the change in organizations. So if I take an example, we were running a big program for operational process transformation, in one of the leading banks, so which I was leading for. And if you think about the program, we were setting up a BPM platform right from scratch, and we had 3 more application projects running parallelly. That means you are laying the foundation of that enterprise platform, and there are 3 projects running which would be going live at the same time as your platform is going live. Now, if you think about managing such a complex change, you cannot run design thinking separately and change separately. So we had to integrate design thinking into the way of executing that program itself, which means we started building the environments to start off with, right, just in time. That means we are learning as we go, right? And we are more progressively trying to deliver, and the scope is changing very fast as well, because even the platform architects are not clear on how it might look like at the end. So how you as a change agent or the program management team or a project team are open enough to receive those changes, empathize not just with the customer, but also you need to empathize with your own team as well, right? When they are delivering such a huge program, how do you manage and empathize with the team that you are dealing with is equally important, so that they are not overwhelmed by the change itself. So that is where design thinking comes in quite handy, that, okay, you are trying to make them understand that we are, driving this iteratively and things might change, and it brings in a lot of transparency into the system. And also it helped us identify the right stakeholders. Think about journey maps that we create, right? So when we create journey maps, we understand where all we have touch points, who are all required to be included in those conversations. And if you don't do that, probably many times you forget those people as well. And that could lead to potential changes coming through which you have not anticipated. And that leads to a lot of heartburn in program teams that are delivering. So you have to integrate design thinking into the change management process of the organization itself.
Thank you so much. Very insightful. So next, would like to ask Christian one of the questions from one of our viewers here, right? It's about idea generation in design thinking process, right? Now, in that, I have a small additional thing to you. Sometimes Steve Jobs says that sometimes the customer does not know what he wants. We assume so. Going talking to him, he would tell us what he wants, but then sometimes he may not know. So maybe maybe we do Kano research or other types of techniques to go validate with the customer. We think this is what we need. This is what you need. Which one do you like? Maybe there's another set of approach. So what are the various techniques in idea generation there, Christian? Please go for it.
Thank you for a question. It's important to know that design thinking, it's about to keep people in the center. So in the first part of our discovery of the unmet needs, it's about to get the insight about what is the real need and desire, because those are fantastic fuels for innovation. So it's not about designing great things. It's about add value and meaning to the people. It's go deeper from survey or interview them, because some of us think about just interview and get some survey, it's enough, but it's something beyond. It's we immerse ourselves in the real situation to observe what people say, what they do, and of course what they feel. It's one of the most important things, and especially when you see and identify new things, the capacity to be curious and get excited for that discovery help us to get better alternative for the future product. So it's about to see the emotional side when we discover something. And that is a very important thing to improve and to promote in our team. That emotion to discover new things, to embrace uncertainty, and of course to build a culture of experimentation.
Thank you, Christian. So Cyril, next we have a question for you from one of our viewers here. The question is, I mean, obviously design thinking can apply for any industry, but he has a specific question. Is design thinking embedded in some industries more than other? Is the question.
Okay, not necessarily. I think maybe there's two key categories. Is either product delivery or service delivery, right? I guess these are the two key categories here, and that could be they could fall in any industry. So I wouldn't say that it's more relevant in some industries than others. Of course, the approach would be different. You know, services. The approach for services, for instance, would be different for the approach for products, right? And both categories could be somewhat similar, right? Depending on the actual offering, right? You know, in terms of product or service. But I would say that service is quite an interesting area because there's a relatively more focus on the customer experience part. You know, product, obviously, it comes to how you feel when you get the product. I'll give you a good example. So I'm working with Jaguar Land Rover, actually, helping to build electric cars. And so I decided to invest in experiencing how it's like to drive an electric car. I thought, well, you know, if I'm working on this project, which is helping to build an electric car, it'd be good to get a feel of what it's like to be in an electric car. And I really did get a wow factor, you know, when I test drove a Tesla. And that whole experience gave me an idea of what a customer would be going through when they sit into, you know, a Tesla car and they are using all the different functions within the car, right? So I think it's important to recognize that yes, the service part would not be exactly the same as that of a product, but you know, the service part, we see organizations take customers for granted sometimes. You know, I can give you another example that I recently had with a traditional bank, not a kind of modern fintech. And I had an issue with a transaction on my account. I was a bit concerned whether this transaction was, you know, legitimate. And the bank's customer service response was not that good, right? You know, very, very different from our modern fintech banks, where they would actually jump on it and you know, try and get a fix for it straight away. So even from a customer service perspective, you see the differences, you know, between environments that don't pay attention to customers' needs versus those that are mindful about you know, what customers could be experiencing. So yeah, I would say that there is no specific you know, the key categories would be goods and services, products and services. And in terms of the approach, that would be specific to the organization's offering, you know, whether it's service or goods. But in terms of design thinking, it's relevant in every single industry, I would suggest. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Cyril. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And next, I have a question for Nina here, right? So, I have a question for you. So, in the spirit of design thinking, right, every employee of the organization should be ingrained into design thinking. Say, for example, a developer, right? When we left shift him and let him talk to the, maybe let's say we are doing a research with the customer, and we take a developer, for example, directly with us. Sometimes they may start constraining the thinking options to say, hey, our architecture may not support this, and they try to. So how do you, my question is, how do you marry this agile sprints and design thinking concepts together? How do you left shift the whole process of everybody working together with the customer?
That's a very good question, and actually a problem that sometimes arises in many organizations. What I think it's extremely valuable is actually bring the core team, the cross-functional team, including also someone from the IT side and your developer, into already the design space. So whenever the solution is being really designed, whenever you are trying to understand what the pain points are for your customers, whenever you bring them there, that's when actually you start to build what we call design sprints, which you are not developing, you are still designing, but you are helping people who are going to develop to really understand the customer and see things from their point of view. Because one of the things that most of the developers or people who are very much on the far back end will complain about is that they will never get to see a customer, right? That they will never get to talk to a customer. So one of the things that we currently do is actually, my organization is we bring together those cross-functional teams. We have them understanding and going through the design thinking process through the design sprints. So when the time comes of ideation and you are start ideating, we say, put your head first back, your constraints or potential things that you think that will not fit qua infrastructure, and just put yourselves in the shoes of the customers. And it has proven for us that they are able to take that hat out of their head and start putting the customer hat first, to start thinking together with the customer. And later on, whenever you are coming up with ideas or interesting solutions that could be relevant for the customers, you will understand if this is feasible or not to be done. Right, so that's that way in bringing together your cross-functional teams from the moment that you are designing a solution, and later on in the development you are making that bridge, and you're bringing and having everyone being focused actually on the end user of the solution. So hope that helps.
Oh, no, very well said. Thank you for summarizing that. Very well said. Now, I have a question next for Nivarti, right? So Nivarti, the question here is, we talked about unlearning. We talked about, the question from one of the viewers is, how do you, okay, when we say that the management has to help drive the being in the front, drive the process of design thinking, what type of decision should they make? What is the magic wand do they have? They first have to believe in it, but then what are some of the decisions that they need to strategize to create that environment for everybody in the organization to do so?
Yeah, I would say the first thing is the art of delegation. We are pretty much used to delegating tasks as leaders, right? So, but if you really have to empower the teams to make those decisions, to be able to reach the customer and relate to the customer, empathize and deliver what they want. So first thing I would say is delegation. The art of delegating decision-making authority. That's the first important thing as leaders that we need to look at if we really want to enable the teams to be able to integrate design thinking. And so that's one of the definite items to look at as leaders. The second element is, again, the cultural part. How are you creating a culture of innovation, the culture of customer centricity? And that also comes when we as leaders are able to empathize with our own people. Every time the focus being so much on customers, we forget about our own team members. And we don't empathize with our people as much as we should, because the focus is completely on customer. Customer centricity is important, but if you are able to empathize and build the teams and build the teams with right culture and right mindset, they will take care of the customer centricity themselves. You don't need to worry about it as a leader or as an organization. So as much you empathize with the customer, empathize with your teams. That is the key.
Very well said. Very well said. Now, next I have a question for our Christian. So Christian, The question what I have is, right, I think when we started also, we talked about the skills that we require, start building, upskilling yourself in this space. So what skills do we need, what skills do we need to develop to apply design thinking? So that's one of the questions here. What skills do we need?
One of the most common skill is empathy, and it's beyond to put on the shoes the other person. Is to get not only what they think, it's more about what they feel. If we can see the world through their lens, we can understand better the problem. So that helps us to turn the problems into question. Is one of the most interesting things, because when we start applying design thinking, we come to the table and say we have the solution. But when we start listening to our customer or our user, we identify that the solution that I have previously is not available with the new information. So number one is empathy. Number two is diversity. Because in order to unleash the whole potential of your creativity, you need to start working with different people from different backgrounds, from technical side, from social side, from the financial side, just in order to get different perspective and to build a very meaningful product or service. And the third one is about resilience. Just in order to learn from your previous mistake and to boost again into new learnings, it's one of the most important skills that we can develop. And the last thing I can say, continually upskilling and reskilling yourself, because design thinking is changing and all the information is changing very fast. So we need to take the path.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Next, I have a question for Cyril. So that's an interesting question from one of our viewers, but I would like to, he's like, hey, we have been delivering projects and programs successfully so far. So why design thinking now? We have been delivering things and things have been going live. What's new now, right? Before I give you the floor, definitely there's this big mind shift change required personally. Right? I believe in moving from projects to products mindset, right? Anyways, before I double click on that one, what is that? I would like to take your view on what he's saying.
Yeah, it's a very good one, right? I think it's a very good example of finding yourself in that complacent space, right? Where life is good, everything is going well, okay? So we don't have to do very much if we want to. And then the second point, of course, is that there's always room for improvement, right? I think most of us must have had this from school, from our school teachers, right? Even when you get very good grades, there's always kind of that space where you can even do better. It's important for us to recognize that, and that we can see this. We have lots of stories around very, very famous brands that have, not being able to survive in this new VUCA world, right? Because that's exactly what they did. They felt that, everything is going very well, the numbers are looking good, so we don't need to adapt. And that's not a very, very good place to be. So it's important to, be mindful about what's going on in the marketplace, and try and make sure that you are going to remain competitive in the long haul, right? So that's a kind of a key piece of that. But how do we do that? I think we've all been talking about the importance of having a growth mindset, right? If all of us think in a group, with a growth mindset, we will recognize that we need to continuously step up our game in order to, maintain that really good position that we have in the marketplace. So yeah, general advice is don't be complacent. Just keep on watching the market and adapt accordingly. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Thank you so much. All right. So next, right, I have a question for our, Navarti. Navarti, I know you brought up a very good topic about team building and everything, right? So the question I have, just to double click on that, was interesting statements you made. Now, how can you break these silos? Obviously, right, for design thinking to really work well, the organization itself is in many silos: dev team, test team, the product team, the research team. maybe many applications team. It's all over the place. So how do you break these organizational silos, to help support this design thinking? How do you organize around value?
Yeah, I think that's again a great statement, right? So when we say, and the importance of design thinking or value of design thinking comes when you are focusing more on value chains than focusing on applications, or even talking about projects. So how you can align your organization more to the value chains. Once you organize your products and value chains into the organizational system, the silos would more look to be broken, because they understand what they are contributing to. Majority of the problems in organizations is teams only know what they are doing. Many teams don't even understand where they are contributing to in the organizational perspective. So first, bringing that transparency right from the top to say, okay, if this is a strategic objective we as an organization have, how the lowest placed employee in the organization is having clarity that they are contributing to that objective. Where does my effort go? That is point number one. Point number two, the rewards and recognition systems also play a major part in us being or encouraging silos. How you move your organization from focused on individual recognition to more team level recognitions, right? That is another important thing. And another, performance appraisal system also plays a important element within the concept of breaking the silos. One of the things we tried was open appraisals, and many people think appraisal is still a very confidential taboo. What we did is, okay, everybody in the team on a monthly basis comes and presents what they have done, and all other team members, that includes me as a leader, and all other team members rate everybody. So at the end of the year, I don't have to go and tell any person that what would be our rating, because that's already being seen on a monthly basis and they know where to improve. You can challenge other person. If somebody is rating 4, somebody is rating 1, okay, you have a conversation. That also breaks the silos. So there are n number of elements that we can look at in terms of breaking silos, but the major focus for doing that is on leaders. We blame our teams to be in silos, but how much leadership is doing to break that silos, how much we are focused on proving our own performance as leaders, because we also create silos. Are we representing or exhibiting right values in the system, right culture in the system? That also takes a lot of influence on how teams work in the organizations. I think it's a long discussion. We can probably talk days and months about this, but in short, I think those are the 3 critical elements, Wisely.
No, makes very good sense. Make very good sense. So thank you for that answer. I really appreciate it. Nina, I have a next question from one of the users here, right? He's he's more specifically asking about a construction industry use case, but is in general the question what he's asking is, if the management, in particularly, for example, a construction industry, if the management invests more time into the design thinking part of it and funds it well enough into make sure that it's there, as a matter of fact, at the end it will save a lot more at the end, but they instead keep cutting those things to start the execution much faster. So the question is, again, it just boils down to the same, what's your take on it, right? Obviously it's going to slow down a little bit when you want to give the real customer value. There's going to be a little bit transaction. There's going to be something got to give a little bit. There's going to be something to be invested to get that quality. Eventually, the holistic picture is always good. So how do you influence is the question.
Oh, that's a very good question. And I personally get confronted with that type of question very often, right? Especially when you work in a B2B, a slow moving type of industry, right? So construction falls into that category as well. Most of the times the thinking is, if you really, we know our customers, we know what they want, we know what they need, we need to do it faster. So why do we need to bother doing all of this, right? And one of the arguments whenever you want to understand your customers is actually unveiling and discover some potential opportunities that you haven't seen so far. right? And I have a clear example. It's not in the construction industry because I don't work in it, but it is in the marine industry, right? Which is also a type of, is in a slow moving, you need to build ships, etc. But it is also an area in which we, by having that opportunity to go out and to talk to people who really work in the marine industry, who manage large vessels, maintenance and routes, and they are really fully responsible for it. We could unveil that there were certain pain points that we were not really conscious about it, right? And having a way in which we could actually help people who actually manage those large vessels, we could unveil that there was an opportunity to create a data solution that could help them to better predict when the vessel needed to have a maintenance, right? We would not have discovered this if we would not have spent the time talking and understanding our customers' pain point. And I truly believe if you are in the construction industries, you also might be missing some opportunities of unveiling and discovering some pain points that you may have something or you could help solve in the future. So I would say this is one of the biggest gains, but unless you don't go out and talk and understand, you will never know, right? So you truly believe that's the only thing that my customer wants, isn't really to do things fast and to deliver, but are you really delivering on what they really need or what they say that they need? So I would always argue that. That on the external customer point of view. Other thing that you may be also surprised is that when you look internally at your own company and when you look at your own employees, you will also, if you spend the time to go out and talk to your employees and see what really matters to them and what are some of the biggest pain points, you will also realize opportunities to do that. And from my perspective, I'm working with people who are the usual suspects in marketing, in human resources. But believe what, after doing and embedding design thinking as a mindset within the company, I'm working now with the legal department, I'm working with the procurement department, because they all want to have, they are having this mindset, how can we make the lives of the people, our internal employees, also easier, right? And there, that's where you already start finding out actually the great benefit of having design thinking embedded in the way of working within the company.
Oh, very well summarized, and I appreciate that. Really, couldn't have summarized that better. Thank you. Next I have a question from one of our participants, right? The answer is yes. The question he has is, does design thinking involve, talking to the customer, making sure that their understanding is the same, what they want, and the way we are writing our requirements and the analysis that we are doing and the prototypes we are building. That's why it's a very iterative process, and the answer is yes. I think the answer is absolutely yes. So I'll say that. So that's that. Now, next I'll go to Cyril. Cyril, I lose half my income to Amazon. My kid is they make it so easy that my 5-year-old keeps ordering all the stuff. And I know you have a quote from Jeff Bezos behind you. What's the story there with design thinking? Go for it.
Yeah, in fact, I will make the quote because I'm sure you might not be able to read it. So the quote is, the most important single thing is to focus obsessively on the customer. Our goal is to be Earth's most customer-centric company. Yeah. So yeah, it's interesting that you are talking about Amazon. But by the way, I think wisely, it's very interesting you mentioned that your experience there with your so is it your son or daughter?
It's my 5-year-old.
5-year-old, okay. Because I had exactly the same experience, which is why I was able to resonate with that. Because so Amazon, of course, the online tool has got a functionality where you can make your account more secure to prevent this kind of thing from happening. So I experienced the same thing as you, and when I called them up, very good customer service is what I was expecting, because this is what Jeff Bezos is preaching throughout the company. And the customer service immediately said, that's fine, Mr. Wary. We're going to cancel all the transactions that your son has. I think he spent nearly £100 on some games. So yeah, the customer service rep was very, very helpful. They canceled all the transactions and everything was good. But so here's the thing though, Wiseland, Amazon's website is got so much data gathering built into it, right? You know, every single click, every single area that we go on the website is captured, right? Our every single move is captured. And this is a very good example of customer centricity, really getting to understand what's going on in the head of your customer. This is truly, you know, insightful information. And with that, obviously, they're able to, you know, propose some specific products, you know, some offers, etc., which hopefully will encourage you to spend more money. So yeah, the data element is very, very key. And you know, smart organizations are really leveraging on that. I think Nina mentioned earlier on that now we don't have the opportunity to necessarily go and physically visit our customers. But of course, there's digitization, right? Now they are monitoring our every single move on websites and apps and tools like that. Yeah.
No,
Can I
absolutely.
can I add something?
Yes,
Yeah.
please.
Thank you for the great quote, Cyril. I'm a big fan of Jeff Bezos. There
Good.
is also a principle that I
Yeah.
really like. And one of his principles is that in every business decision or a strategy decision, they have the principle of the empty chair.
Ah, yes, you're
When they
right.
gather
Yep.
together, they do have an empty chair, and that empty chair
Yes.
represents the customer.
Right.
That's how obsessed they are. And I love that
Yes. Yes,
principle
you're right.
because it's embedded everywhere, ingrained in the mindset of the whole company.
Exactly. Yeah. I think this is what Nivarti was talking about, the importance of, you know, having a culture that speaks to, you know, so every single thing that we do is we're mindful about what is the customer's perspective on this. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Thank you for that. And again, right there behind me, there is a picture of a safe framework. Look at that
Yeah.
picture and the icons there. The customer is the only person with the tux. I did not even wear a tux in my marriage. The customer is the only person with the tux there. Anyways, it's all about the customers. Now, I would like to go to Christian, right? Christian, I think a topic came about one of the tools which was mentioned, which can be used is the journey map, you know, where we can put ourselves into the shoes of the customer and see his experience. Would you like to talk more about that? You know, that tool more in for our viewers' benefit?
Of course, Wesley. And I've been thinking about the question about the serial, and Nina said is tremendous information. And of course, in the journey map, we need to identify exactly what is all the aspect that influence into our customer or our user. And one of the most interesting thing, and during that activity, we need to connect our two kind of thinking, our analytical thinking, just in order to collect the data and all the information available, the quantitative side, and the intuitive data, which is the qualitative, is more connected with the ideas and emotions. So, for instance, in LACE, that we are an educational platform for providing environmental education to children in Peru. We try to redefine the education system and in the virtual environment. So the first thing that we do is we immerse ourselves in a daily class that any children can take during this pandemic. And we observing the whole process, and we identify a very interesting insight during the journey map that we were creating for. And it was one interesting thing, and it's about the time. Because the pandemic hits very fast, we couldn't develop strategies to connect the face-to-face traditional class into the digital one. So we just put the same thing in a digital environment, and the nature are different. So the time is very important, especially for a kid in a learning process in a digital platform. So we discover is 1 hour is too much for a kid. 30 minutes is too much for a kid. The right amount of time that the kid can focus on and follow all the activities is 20 minutes. So how we do it? We make interviews, we observe directly, we prototype different model class, and we finally found that a specific amount of time it's available to get a tremendous and inspirational class for the children. So to sum it up, in the journey map, it's about to immerse and to get all the information as much as possible. The data is very important to get structured information that you can measure and you can follow and monitor during the time that you are studying. But also the other part is the emotional, how they think, how they feel, how their happiness, the body language, and how they interact with other classmates. So I hope that helped whistling a bit of experience applying the journey map.
No, makes very good sense. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for that. This is another good question from one of the user, right? It's one of my favorite topics, but I would like to, let Nivati take that question. But I'll take a little bit and then I'll pass it to him. So the question is, now with machine learning and other things coming in, right? How will this aid design thinking or would it replace design thinking is the question. Now I can tell you one thing. One of the companies currently I'm doing a DevOps and Agile enterprise Agile transformation service. Now we use products like user testing. We use products like Crazy Egg. We use products like Qualtrics. So, for example, I'll give you one example. So this Crazy Egg is a product where, it will keep an idea of where the people are clicking the most, where people are not clicking. It gives a deeper insight. Same with other tool softwares in different ways. So my point is a lot of things which helps to aid the process to structure much more meaningful conversations with the customer for sure. It definitely aids is the way I will put it. Exploratory testing and the voice of the customer, talking to the person and doing it is always never like that personal touch. But having said that, it will definitely aid. But I will let to pass it to Nivarti for that.
Yeah, thanks, Faisalin. I think you look at it not just from a machine learning perspective. Many times we also get a question, we are already having Agile, we are already having DevOps now, why design thinking is required? And that's also another question you get. So these are complementary. They are not conflicting or they are not, exclusively replaceable. So they're all complementing to each other. If you talk about even journey maps that Christian was explaining so beautifully. When you talk about value chains in Agile, value chain may not necessarily represent the customer journey, right? So a customer's journey might transverse more than one value chains. And then when you are not able to use customer journeys, we are Agile, we are focusing on product, we are focusing on customer, but are you focusing on customer from an end-to-end perspective? You are probably focusing on customer within the boundary of your product, but that may not give what the customer wants. Right? That's the fit for use and fit for purpose difference that we are referring to. And when it comes to machine learning as well, again, machine learning also, as again, Cyril was talking about Amazon, so much information is picked up from data. What you make sense of this data, the AIs and MLs models will give us that indications. And then you complement that with design thinking approach and then deliver through Agile. So there are n number of frameworks you can integrate or even technologies you can complementarily integrate to be better at giving what customer is looking for and especially fulfilling their purpose for what they are coming to you, right? So these are all complementary. How you integrate depends on the context of your own system. That's what I would say.
Very good, very good. Thank you so much. Cyril, would you like to add on that? Your thoughts on machine learning and design thinking and the coexistence.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think technology has really helped us to take customer centricity to a totally different level. We organizations are really leveraging on there's some really amazing tools out there in the market, right? That is around data analytics. So that whole area has gone very, very digital. And going back to Nina's point again, is that we no longer need to have this physical interaction necessarily. We all have mobile phones, and there's always going to be some sort of tool that we can incorporate into the mobile phone that is going to enable us to pick the necessary information, on our customers. So absolutely, I think it's become very, very competitive now, right? I mean, organizations that are not leveraging on data analytics, data intelligence, are not going to be around for long. Yeah.
Wow. Well, great conversations, guys. I had too much fun, and thank you for all the awesome questions from the audience and everything. So I think, Priya, I think it's about time to wrap up. So first of all, thank you all, the panelists. I would like to thank you all for your great feedbacks and thought leadership. Priya,
Yes.
would slowly like to pass it back to you for the remaining minutes.
Sure. So thank you, panelists and everyone on this call. Please do take this conversation forward. The LinkedIn profiles of the panelists are shared on the chat window. Please feel free to connect with them. Send your questions to us. We'll try to get it, solved or responded as possible. And with this, I will hand over to Prashant to wrap up the session for us. Prashant, over to you.
Yes, thank you, Priya. So thank you all the panelists for a wonderful and thought-provoking session. I will try to kind of summarize few points that made me thinking, in fact, that left me thinking. Like Wislen said, every employee of the organization shall be engrossed into design thinking. Organizations work in department silos, and design thinking helps come out of this. Nina added, learning happens when you get yourself face-to-face with the people involved. She also talked about different tools to get a human-centric approach with your customers. Cyril mentioned that it's important to recognize that the service offering is not exactly same as the product. However, in terms of design thinking, it is relevant for all the industries, and I think that's a very strong point there. Nivati stressed that design thinking has to be integrated with organizational transformations. It helps to take care of people who might otherwise get missed out during the transformation process. Very important. Customer centricity is important, and we also need to empathize with the team members as well, and they will then take care of your customers. Last but not least, Christian said that in order to let your team unleash the potential, we need to let go of the biases and understand the perspective of people from various different backgrounds. It is important to get the emotion towards discovering new things. An excellent and a very learning session today. Thank you all the participants. Thank you all the panelists and all the participants for taking time and attending this session. Please take your feedback by scanning the QR code or through the link posted in the chat window. Do we have it?
Yes. So we are not displaying the QR code.
Yeah,
the link.
I thought it's going to come up soon. Never mind, just take it on the chat window. I think everybody will be able to do that.
I've put the feedback link on the chat window, yes. And the
Perfect.
PDF code is also displayed.
Yes. And please share the topics that you would like to hear in the feedback link. I would like to thank all the volunteers for the time and effort for this session. Thank you, Sunil, for your help as a WebEx admin in making this event smooth as ever. Yuda, our chapter leader from Puget Sound chapter, for the wonderful flyers that we have it going across the social media. Thanks, Damike, for the social media post, the one who is driving all this. The PDF code for the session, I think, is it already there? Yeah.
It's there on the chat.
It's already mentioned. So please claim the PDUs at the earliest. thank you very much for your attendance and hope to see you all at the next event with another interesting topic, and have a great day ahead. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. And yeah, if Arif, you can switch on your video, we can take a group photo again.
Oh, okay.
Are you there, Arif? Yes. Mitra, are you able to take, or I shall?
Take Priya, my connection is low.
Okay. What about Pierre? Are you able to switch on your video?
Unfortunately, no. It's not gonna work. Sorry.
Hey, I have it. Thank you. So thank you very much, panelists, attendees, for joining the session. We will catch up again next month.
Thank you very much, everyone. Great to meet you all.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Ciao, everyone. Take
Bye.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.